Bank means what a bank does. A very simple definition of the word bank. Bank means what a bank does. For every subject when we are discussing, we can see the term is derived from Latin term or a Greek word, etc. For example, constitution when we are taking, we know like constitution is derived from the Latin term constitutio. So, for example, preamble derived from preambulus. Law derived from the Teutonic word lag. But when we take the subject bank, what we can understand like different concepts are there from which the word bank, the term bank derives. The term bank has been used since a long time. The origin of the term bank is supposed to be the Latin word bunches or an Italian word banco, which means seat or bench of justice, or we can say like it's derived from the German term bank, which means joint stock fund, or Greek term banku, which means bench. When a banker was not in a position to meet his obligation, the bench on which he used to sit and carry on the money business was broken into pieces and he was taken as bankrupt. So we can conclude like both the words bank and bankrupt are said to have their origin from the word banku. When we go through the history of bank, what we can understand like in the very olden times, some group of people they will sit in benches and they will do this money lending business. And thus we can understand like the term bench from which the word bank derived. And bankruptcy, that word also derived from the word banku only. That means broken bench. Now we can go to the history of banking. Banking is as old as the civilization itself. As early as 2000 BC, the Babylonians had developed a system of banks. The temples were used by them for lending at higher rate of interest against gold and silver which had been left with them for safe custody. The Greek temples were also used as people's surplus funds and these were the centers of money lending transactions. The priests of the temples acted as financial agents. Aristotle considered that the charging of interest is unnatural and immoral. Mohammedans, in obedience to the commands contained in their religious books, refused to accept interest on loans. With the revival of civilizations in the mid of 12th century, the first bank was found at Venice in the year 1157. Later, banks were established at Barcelona and Genoa. The origin of the modern banking may be traced to the money lenders and dealers in Florence in the 14th century. The evolution of banking we can trace from the book written by Adam Smith, An Enquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. Observe, the earliest banks of Italy where the name began were finance companies to make loans to float loans for the government. In England, during the reign of Edward III, money changing functions of bank was taken up by a royal exchanger for the benefit of the crown and to exchange various foreign coins. So what we can understand here like this subject banking is not a new one. It was there from the very olden times. Now when we come to the history of banking in India, it was existed even during the Vedic period, that is from 2000 BC to 1400 BC. lending of money was regarded as an old art. Lending of money was practiced in the early Aryan days. Money lending and banking were existed during epic period, namely during the period of Mahabharata and Ramayana, which are concerned with the events of life which took place between 1000 and 700 BC. During that period, banking had become a full-fledged business. Details of money lending in the Sutra period, that is from 7th to 2nd century BC, are available in the Buddhist writings called the Jatakas. The Jatakas mention the existence of money lenders called Seths, who perform the functions of a banker. In Jatakas, there are several stories of kings receiving financial help from the guilds. Merchants were engaged in commercial and industrial activities. The merchants paid interest on the deposits they received at the rate fixed by the General Assembly of the guilds. Thus, it is evident that money lending, banking and trading were interlinked. Buddha and Mahavir denounced the practice of money lending. They stated that lending of money was a sin and created huge agonies to mankind. However, during the Buddhist period, even the Brahmins and Kshatriyas started to adopt banking as business. During this period, the bills of exchange also came into existence. Kaudilya in Arthashastra, which was written during Mauryan period in 4th century BC, stated that the maximum rate of interest which could be charged by the money lenders. But during this period, the bankers were known as Sahukas and Mahajans. During Mughal period, banking system was in its prime stage. The money lenders were known as Struff at that time. That means different period, this money lending process was there and they were known by different names. When the Britishers came to India in 17th century, they found a reasonably well established indigenous banking system in India. The East India Company came into India as trader and established its agency houses at Bombay, Calcutta and Madras in India. Such agency houses were the combination of trade and banking in India. The General Bank of India came into existence in the year 1786, which was the first joint stock bank in India, having limited liability of its shareholders. In the year 1787, this bank was appointed as banker to the government. However, it also did not survive for a long period and was dissolved in the year 1791. And by this, the topic of banking law, the history of banking and introduction comes to an end. And we can see in the next class. Thank you. Bank means what a bank does.